recording here. So this is our review, so that's fine. Next, and again, this is great. Open communication is key, and the foundation to any healthy organization is trust. The foundation to any healthy organization is trust. Trust. Making sure that the employer and the employee trust each other. And again, we talked about this last week. All right. Another review. What is a contractor? What is an employee? All right. A contractor is a worker who is responsible for delivering a certain result, and they decide how to achieve that result. They get a 1099. All right. A worker is, an employee is someone who does what you tell them to do. All right. When you tell them to do and how to do it. Okay, so that's important too, an important distinction. They will get that. They will file the W-2. They get the W-2. They get the W-2 for the employee. The company withholds income tax, Social Security, and Medicare from wages paid. For the independent contractor, the company does not withhold taxes. All right, and that's key. That's a different situation. All right, very good. Couple of stats, again, why it matters. Again, this is our review. So we saw this last week. Independent contractors are the largest growing group in the U.S. workforce. There are definitely, when this is going to be familiar to you, there are definitely situations where this is important, right? Employers are not required to pay contractors a salary, benefits, or withhold employment taxes. And this is the problem right here. 3.4 million employees are incorrectly being classified as independent contractors, right? There is a benefit to the company. They don't have to pay all of those extra amounts. The burden is placed on the worker, and that just doesn't fly. That doesn't cut it, because if an employer misclassifies an employee as an independent contractor, there could be financial repercussions. And again, we talked about all of this last week, and that's key. That's key. So the independent contractor test, again, a review. All right. Does the business have the right to direct and control how the worker does their task, the task for which they were hired? Okay. Through instruction, training, or other means. Okay. Financial control. Does the business have a right to control the financial and business aspect of the worker's job, including how the business pays for the worker? Okay. Again, how the worker makes the services available, and the extent to which the worker has unreimbursed business expenses. All right. And then the relationship of the parties. Are there written contracts between the two parties? And so on. Does the business provide employee type benefits like insurance, pension plan, sick pay, and so on? Remember the independent contractor checklist, right? And again, this is a review. They may operate under a business name. I remember when I was an independent contractor, I operated under my own business name. All right. And I've had experience as an independent contractor and as an employee in both. And I can attest to that from my own personal experience. I also had my own employees, right? Maintain separate business checking account, advertises their business services. That's something I had to do, absolutely. All right. Has a contract with you describing the relationship, right? Very important. A contract. Invoices for completed work were completed. Has more than one client, right? At one point, I had 3 clients. Okay. Has their own tools and sets their own hours, right? The independent contractor comes in with their own tools, and they keep their own business records. Whereas an employee checklist, where you as the employer, you define the hours, you provide the equipment and supplies, the relationship is indefinite, contractors are temporary, okay? You don't receive invoices, you're not going to get invoiced by your employees, you pay them a salary, right? The worker works only for you. There isn't necessarily a contract. It's a letter of employment, for example, or something to that effect, right? And the worker performs core business functions. Contractors will be supplemental, okay? So as an example, again, in the industry that I used to work for, oops, here we go. in the industry that I used to work for, we in the private education, right, we had employees and independent contractors. And so these employees performed the core business functions, right? They were the teachers, they were the administrators, and so on, right? However, we had independent contractors that would come in to set up the internet, for example. They did supplemental work. They had their own tools and so on. So again, this is just another example of the difference between an employee and independent contractor. Very important to know. Very important. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about employee benefits. And before we do, I'm going to share another article with you right over here from meetbreeze.com. This is going to be in the chat. So if you want to keep a record of it, it's all there for you right over here. This is their running list. They do this every year. There are dozens of lists like that. It doesn't necessarily have to, you don't necessarily have to look at this one, but this one is pretty comprehensive. Takes a look at the top 20. Takes a look at the top 20 best employee benefits and work perks for 2023. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that this is what you need to offer, but this is what's in the zeitgeist, so to speak. This is what people are looking for, and there you go. So let's take a look at a number of them, right? Some financial and insurance benefits, right? Retirement savings plan, match employee contributions. That's interesting. Match employee contributions. All right, let me change this just real quick. Right, so by having a vesting schedule for the employees matching funds up to a certain amount, right, they can encourage the company, the workers to stay in the company longer. Okay, obviously, this is a big one right here. Number 3, health insurance. Okay, health insurance. All right, very, very important. The growing cost of healthcare. All right, nowadays, employee-sponsored health insurance is a must, as is dental and vision. Okay, so again, this article is in the chat. Okay, this is our new one. So we're done with our review, so to speak, and we're talking about the top 20 best employee benefits and work perks. All right, group disability insurance, right? That consider that as well. Okay, it's nice to have. All right, an FSA, flexible spending account, or HSA, right? Very interesting. Okay, there's special accounts where employees can save money for future healthcare costs through payroll deductions. Okay, consider reading the whole thing, and especially this article right here that I'm not going to click on, but that is linked to it. HSA versus FSA. All right, great. Number 6, student loan repayment assistance. All right, there are some companies that offer this. Now, next category is quality of work. All right, flexible work arrangements. Okay, so again, the question that they ask is, what's more important, when and where and how long an employee stays on the clock, or the quality and the timeliness of their work? All right, again, it depends on your situation, but it would not be a surprise if prospective employees came to you looking for these 1, 2, 3, or more of these benefits, right? Okay, very important. Professional development. That can come in a lot of ways. It can come by sending, for example, your employer to a conference or something like that, but even tuition reimbursement. A number of companies do that. In-house seminars, yeah, like I said, conferences and workshops, in-house seminars and workshops, right? Don't be afraid to mix it up every now and then. Encourage company executives or yourselves and subject matter experts to present to internal teams, okay, that don't necessarily interface on a daily basis. Perhaps consider a formal mentorship program, right? Worried about new employees falling through the cracks? Okay. That's, implementing a formal mentorship program will foster a forward-thinking, goal-oriented work environment, they say. Taking a sip of water here. An example, again, in the industry that I used to work for, we had a formal a mentorship program where teachers who had been private school teachers who had been there for 20 years or more at the school would mentor a brand new teacher, meeting with them regularly, providing them personalized feedback and whatnot, and it really just helping them out. Okay. Connecting new hires with experienced contributors at the company, connect them early and often. All right. Then there's a whole category, I'm not going to go too much into this, but of daily wellness, right? If somebody comes to you, an employer, prospective employer or employee, I'm sorry, comes to you and is not doing well throughout the day, you know, maybe a nice cup of coffee or something like that, healthy snacks, that's just some ideas. All right, quality of life. Perhaps paid parental leave. That's another one that's very popular. And again, take a look at all the information here. Or volunteer time off, right? Again, I used to work for a very small school, private school, but they would give us some time off to volunteer. And we got to choose which place we could volunteer. We would volunteer to. We would take a day or two and really volunteer. Have you know, it shows good corporate citizenship by promoting volunteerism, right? Very important, and it appeals to workers of all ages. Okay. Next, employee assistance programs. All right, so there are a variety of different employee assistance programs. They're meant to recognize and help with mental health issues. Consider looking into these. All right, employers typically offer employee assistance programs at no cost to employees. Again, this is something that you can consider as well. This is a little less, the rest is, it's a little less for entrepreneurs and sole proprietors. But again, consider these discount programs and things like that. And if you're an animal lover, we have an 18, 19, and 20 right over here for animal lovers, pet-friendly office spaces, right? I had an administrator come in every day with her little dog, and she got permission to do that. And it helped her. It helped everybody, all the little kids. They always wanted to go into that office to see the little dog. And so that was for animal lovers right there. That was a perk. And she loved that. Okay. You know, so again, some creative ideas that you can include as benefits in that article. It's a great article. I would recommend that you keep it, save it, print it, or, you know, keep it somehow and take a look. All right. This is great. Let's keep going, everybody. Okay, we were talking about employee benefits here. Okay, and so now it's your turn. What types of employee benefits would you consider in your industry, in your prospective business or current business, offering? Go ahead and put that in the chat. All right. I'm going to change the question just a little bit. It says, what are some examples? We've already taken a look at some examples. My question to you is, in your industry, in your specific organization, all right, even if you're, you know, one-person team, it's okay. It's okay. What type of employee benefits would you consider offering to employees? Go ahead and put that in the chat. I'm going to get another sip of water here. Oh, thank you, Christy. My goodness, look at that. That's great. I'm going to read them all once everybody has their answer. Lots of good answers here. Good, good, good. Oh, that's funny, Christy. That's great. That's awesome. I'm going to read it out loud in just a second. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Very good. I know that as you're typing, and let me give you another example of this, my business perks and so on. My own brother works for FedEx, and they offer $25,000 a year for students to go back, for young or people to go back to school. They cover up to $25,000 a year in tuition. And so that is a big perk, especially with rising college tuitions. And so there you go. Let's see what we have. So I have Christy says, I run a food business so I can offer discounts on products. And then Christy also adds, plus they can get expired produce. That's right. Very good. Very good. Pay time off and annual bonuses, says Dawn. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Let's take a look. Paid vacation, yes. Student loans, okay, great. Becky says, use of tools during non-business hours. That's true. That's true, especially if they are value-adding tools. They're going to be value-adding tools. They're tools, and if it helps the individual employee, maybe in their side projects or something like that, very good, very good. Chrissy says flexible schedule. Great. Let's see. Nicholas has an interesting one. I'm attempting to start an entertainment business and use Pixar and ILM as templates for my business. Yes, absolutely. If I'm not mistaken, the software that they use, there is a freeware version of some sort that individuals can download as a huge file. And so this comment is mostly for Thomas, but yeah, being able to have tutorials and lessons on all the software, for that sort of rendering. I think it's called RenderMan, isn't it? I can't remember, but that could be a great business perk as well. Great. Okay, let's move on. Let's keep going. Okay, and now we're going to go back to our article where we talked about the steps to starting a business. So let's go back to our article. Okay, right there. Nice. Steps to starting a business right over here. In step number 5, and again, we saw that if this is familiar, this looks a little familiar, Prevost. Oh, yes, we saw it last week, and we saw it at the beginning here. So there you go. So in setting up payroll taxes right over here, this is a little ad here. After hiring employees, payroll taxes must be paid. They have to include, and again, we're reviewing this, federal income tax withholdings, state income tax withholdings, and also Social Security and Medicare. You have the information here. We saw this last time, but I'd like to focus today on that Form 941 and the IRS Form 940. And that is key. So let me read this. Employers withhold money from each employee's paycheck to pay for the employee's federal income tax based on the information provided in their W-4. The employers pays no part of the withholding tax, but is responsible for collecting and remitting the withheld taxes. Federal income tax withholding reports are filed using the W-2 wage and tax statement. All right, so I'm going to click on that, and the link is there. The link is there. Okay, so the W-2 is there. You can go ahead and have that information here. All right. Okay, let's go back to this. To the IRS. Additionally, IRS Form 941 is due quarterly. Here is IRS Form 941. Read it, take a look. It is due quarterly. Let me put this in the chat, all right, so that you can have it, all right, right here. It's all there for you. It's all on the IRS website right here, okay. But at the same time, and we're gonna dive in a little deeper in our PowerPoint slide, just a second here. At the same time, IRS Form 940 is filed annually to report any unemployment taxes due. That one is right here. I'm gonna give you the link in just a sec. It is right there. IRS Form 940, right over here. Okay, let's take a look at that. Oops. Let me put that one in the chat too, so that you all have it. It's all there, right there. So 941 quarterly, 940 annually. All right, let's erase that arrow. And let's get back to our slide presentation, all right, so that we can talk about Form 941. All right, employers' quarterly federal tax returns. Okay. So very important. All right. This is on the web page, on the IRS web page, which is why it looks a little blurry here. I literally just, it was just copied as an image right there. Let me read this part right over here. Federal law requires you as an employer to withhold certain taxes from your employee's pay. Each time you pay wages, you must withhold or take out of your employees' pay certain amounts for federal tax, income tax, Social Security tax, and Medicare tax. You must also withhold additional Medicare taxes from wages you pay to an employee in excess of $200,000 in a calendar year. Under the withholding system, taxes withheld from your employees are credited to the employees in payment of their tax liabilities. Okay, all right, that's key. That's important. That's why we file that form. All right. That's why we file. Now, who must file? Let's take a look at this. Okay. All right. If you've paid wages, and this is a little bit long, so I apologize. Okay. I'm going to read just the bullet points, and then you can read the rest as well by yourself. I'm going to leave this up here just a little bit. Here we go. If you pay wages subject to federal income tax withholdings or Social Security and Medicare taxes, you must file that Form 941 quarterly to report the following amounts. This is key. This is what you're reporting. Wages you've paid, tips your employees reported to you, right? Federal income tax you withheld, both the employer and the employee share of Social Security and Medicare taxes, and again, any additional Medicare tax withheld from employees. But that's not all. Also, current quarter's adjustment to Social Security and Medicare taxes for fractions of cents, sick pay, tips, and group term life insurance, qualified small business payroll tax credit for increasing research activities. All right, that might not apply to you. Again, some of these may not apply to you. Credits for qualified sick and family leave wages, employee retention credits, credit for COBRA premium assistance payments, and so on. So it's all here for you. All right, who must file and what you should file in the 941. It's all on the IRS website, and just click on that link, or even just simply Google if you forget, just simply Google IRS Form 941. You'll have all that explanation right here. I'm going to put a plug in again to for the advisors with us at the SBDC. Okay, any questions? Ask your advisors. Ask your advisors. They are there to help you with all of this, and advise. Now, advisors are not tax professionals or anything like that. That should be stated, all right? But they're there to advise on the different steps, particularly that article, right? Remember that article of the 8 steps to starting a business, making sure that you have everything in the right order, okay? Let's talk about workers' compensation, what that means. Again, this is from the IRS website. Under the workers' compensation system in almost every state in the U.S., most employers are required to purchase insurance that provides a range of benefits to employees who are injured or become ill because of their jobs. All right, consider this as well, okay? The system strikes a compromise between employers and employees, right? Employees get benefits regardless of who was at fault, all right? What is covered by workers' compensation? Again, this is a twofold answer, okay? And again, ask your advisors. They're there to help with any questions about this, especially when you're hiring that first employee, right? Very important. Part A, workers' compensation covers your employees, right? It covers medical expenses, medical expenses, lost income, wages, rehabilitation costs, and if needed, death benefits for employees who sustain an injury and so on, illness, or contracted disease as a result of their employment. So again, make sure to get that unemployment insurance. That's key. And again, it's in the list of that article of the steps to hiring that first employee, right? That's in the list right there. Okay. Unemployment insurance, a program supported by state and local governments to protect workers who lose their jobs through no fault of their own. Okay, so this is the next part. Okay, the average payments are provided to workers, I'm sorry, the average period payments are provided to workers is that are provided to workers is 26 weeks or determined by state. All right. They are required to be actively seeking for a job. Employers are required to pay through a tax on any employee deemed eligible by the state. And we're not talking about part-time seasonal contract workers here who do not qualify for this benefit. And again, it's all in the list of hiring your first employee that we talked about in that article last week and then this week, today. Great. All right. How do you minimize, now let's talk about this. How do you minimize the costs of unemployment insurance and claims? All right. Again, in the first 3 years of business, you can qualify for the new employer tax rate. All right. This is a minimum rate which will not go down but can increase. Number two, consider avoiding layoffs and downsizing if possible, and never hire. And this is a general rule of thumb here when it comes to human resources, never hire more people than you think your business can reasonably support. Okay, reasonably support. Let me give you an example just very quickly. Again, in my field, private education, we had one office manager at a school that I worked at, and the office manager was kind of bored. And that was not necessarily what the school wanted, but the office manager recommended that they hire an assistant. It turns out that that was more than the business could afford. And the only reason why the office manager was talking about hiring an assistant was to have somebody to talk with and to be with. That person was very social. And so again, rule of thumb, do not hire any more people than you think your business can reasonably support. Okay, so that's key. All right. Also, very important, rule of thumb. This is how you really minimize your costs here. Document fully and clearly all corrective actions for an employee. Fully, with a form, documenting it. Nothing should be left spoken. If it hasn't been written down, it never happened. Really, that's the rule, right? I mean, of course, it might have happened, but it's written down or it didn't occur, right? And that's key. Okay. All right. And again, don't intentionally staff with provisional workers as a way to minimize this tax. This is, again, a rule of thumb. Some businesses might be tempted to hire more provisional workers. And I'm not going to do this. We're not going to pay this tax, and we're not going to have the employee. No. If the worker is an employee, the worker is an employee. You've seen the checklist. We've reviewed it, and that's key. We're not going to sort of, and not that anybody here would do that, but there have been businesses that hire provisional workers as a way to minimize taxes. And that's just not right. That's just not right. And 3.4 million, if you remember, are incorrectly categorized, right? And so just got to make sure that we do the right thing. Okay. Very good. It's time for policies and procedures. This is great. So let's do this. Okay. Policies and procedures. All right. Why are policies and procedures in your business important? Right. Number one, very key, very important. They set expectations. All right. Number two, they keep management accountable. They keep management accountable. All right. Number three, just as important, they ensure compliance with the law. They ensure compliance with the law. Number four, they can help defend against employee claims. Employee claims. And also, they let employees know, number five, where to turn for help. Open up the procedures manual. It's all going to be there. It adds peace of mind to the employee in case there's some sort of dispute. It's all on paper. It's all there in the policies and the procedures. Okay, very key. All right. Now, are you ready? We have a case study that we're going to take a look at. This case study involves quite a bit of reading on 4 slides. I would recommend that you read along with me, or you can sit back, relax, and hear me read the whole thing. It's all good. It is a case study that will look at what happens. I don't want to spoil it, but when the procedures are not necessarily in place. All right, are you ready? Let's take a look. An employee of a large organization reported to the organization's human resources department that a coworker harassed her based on her gender. The HR manager concluded that an internal investigation should be conducted to understand the details of the allegations. The HR manager further concluded that a third party was best suited to conduct such an investigation. This decision is consistent with best practices, as a third party can often present itself as more neutral than an internal investigator can. For that reason, employees might be more inclined to be more forthcoming with information. Moreover, because the alleged harassment and other problematic behaviors on the part of the accused spanned several years and encompassed a serious claim, the organization lacked the necessary time and resources to conduct a thorough investigation. The organization agreed with the HR manager and contracted a third-party organization to conduct an investigation into the allegations. An on-site investigation was conducted in which numerous employees were interviewed and documentation was reviewed. During the interview process, it became clear that there was a consistent theme that the accused individual had a history of problematic behavior spanning the last several years. The problematic behavior included both verbal and physical altercations with fellow coworkers, insubordinate behavior, and numerous customer complaints. Further, interviews revealed that many employees had concerns for their own and other employees' safety because of the frequency and severity of the accused employee's behavior. While employees were able to clearly articulate these concerns, the individual's personnel files contained minimal information regarding disciplinary behavior to correct the described issues. Instead, the employee had been transferred among several departments over the past 7 years, during which each new manager gave the employee, quote, the benefit of the doubt, or a, quote, clean slate. This case, so this is the underlying problem. This case clearly exemplified that this organization, rather than address the employee's problematic behavior, ignored it and simply transferred the employee when a problem arose. Further, despite having clearly articulated written policies and procedures regarding discipline and employee conduct, the organization did not respond in accordance with these policies. Specifically, the accused employee was involved in a physical altercation within the first 90 days of employment. While there is no tolerance policy regarding violence in the workplace, the behavior was sufficient cause for termination. The employee was suspended and then transferred to another department. The employee was allowed to continue his employment despite numerous behavioral problems, most of which were undocumented. Little or no corrective and disciplinary action was taken for any of the documented incidents. The end result: this organization invested significant resources in engaging a third party to investigate an employee who should have been terminated years earlier. Based upon all information gathered by the external investigators, the organization terminated the accused employee. However, the effort and expense to the organization was significant. The organization spent tens of thousands of dollars to terminate that employee, an employee whom they had sufficient grounds to fire only months into his employment. This case, and this is our conclusion here, this case illuminates 2 poignant issues. Number one, organizations need clear and consistent company policies regarding acceptable employee behavior. And number two, organizations need to enforce that workplace policies when employees fail to comply with the acceptable standards of behavior. What does that mean? It means that not only is it important to have these policies in place, but also it's important to act when it's necessary. That organization in the case study had the zero tolerance behavior for violence, but they didn't act. And it caused them a lot of heartache, reputation issues, financial issues, and so on. Probably a drag on morale as well among other employees, of course, who had seen the problematic behavior from that first employee who was later terminated. And so that's our case study, just really taking a look at the whole idea and the importance of those policies and procedures. All right. Sorry that case study was a bit of a downer, but it illustrated really what we're talking about here. And so that's key. All right, let's move on. All right, here we go. So what are some must-have policies and procedures? What are some must-have policies and procedures? Number one, and this might seem like a no-brainer, but hear me out, attendance. Policies on attendance. Your employee needs to show up for work, and that's important. Again, if they're not there, the work doesn't get done, right? Number two, employee conduct, right? Employee conduct, policies and procedures for employee conduct. Again, my industry being private education, you can really believe and understand that for teachers, private school teachers, even public school teachers, I'm sure, but private school teachers, boom, employee conduct. The policies were very long. It's very, very clearly stated. And so there was no ambiguity in that as well. So again, I'm talking about my own industry. And there you go. All right. Number three, use of company property, right? If this is a perk that, for example, some of the tools during off hours can be used for side projects by the employee, that's great. But when is the use of company property allowed? When is it not allowed? When is there appropriate use and inappropriate use? Next, number four, let's take a look. Harassment and discrimination. That's an important one right here. That's an important one. They're all important. They all need to be there, right? The must-haves. They're all must-haves. But again, if that company in the case study had the policy about harassment and discrimination and acted upon it accordingly, they would not have suffered the consequences that they suffered. And so that's key, all right? There must be zero tolerance, and again, this goes without saying, for any harassment and discrimination of any kind. And that should be clearly stipulated. You can go in depth when you write those policies, in depth, really in depth. Discrimination, okay, we're talking about non-discrimination, okay, non-harassment, of course. Next, here we go. Internet and social media use. That is key for all employees. I would say particularly younger employees, right? What is the social media use policy? Can employees be on social media during work hours? If not, what are the limits? If yes, what are the limits? If not, what are the limits? You know, and so on. Okay. And then internet use, right? When you're on the computer, you're using the company's bandwidth and Wi-Fi, for example. What can you look at? What can you not look at? You know, we had in some of the schools that I worked at, we had to add Zillow, of all things, to the list of websites that could not be used because a lot of teachers would just scroll on Zillow and look at houses and things like that. It cost time, so much time, that the technology department had to add Zillow as a blocked website. Oh my goodness. So there you go. So that's, again, another example from my field. Next, just as important, another must-have, health and safety. Health and safety, right? What are the health and safety protocols and policies and procedures, especially if you work around food? But even if you don't, Even if you work around kids, there's a health and safety element. Even if you work around anybody, really any business, sole proprietorship, health and safety, how to stay healthy in your field, in your job, while the employees are working under you, working for you. And that's key. That's important as well. Any expenses, business expenses? What are qualified business expenses? How does that work? Are you allowing the use of a business credit card or something like that? That all will be in the policies and procedures for expenses and finances. That is a must-have. That is a must-have. If money comes in and comes out of your business, expenses, financial policies and procedures for the employee, very key, very important. Okay. And lastly, remote work. Does your organization allow for remote work? If so, how? What are the parameters? All right. And so on. Okay. Very key, very important. Perhaps the ability to remote work is a benefit that you offer your employees or your employee, right? How do we limit that? How do we have those parameters? And that's very important. Okay. Does that make sense for everybody? So these are the must-have policies and procedures. Okay. So far, so good. I got a thumbs up. Great. Awesome. All right. Great. Let's do this. All right. We are close to the end here. And guess what? It's your turn. What are some policies and procedures that you have in place? I asked this question last week. Okay. Have you implemented anything else? So go ahead and just give me something in the chat. You know, now that we've learned more about policies and procedures, maybe you have the health and safety one that you need to write down. I really need to write this. So more open-ended. You don't have to necessarily answer these questions, but give me some feedback here about the policies and procedures. All right. You might have none of them. And you might say, oh, I have my work cut out for me. That's right. Okay, go ahead and put that in the chat. All right. Okay. All of these policies and procedures can be put in a lovely binder for your prospective employees. All right. Okay. And, you know, keep a copy for yourself, obviously. Go over the entire policies and procedures during orientation. And that's key. That's important. So just give me some time. It could be more open-ended. Let me take a look here. So Nicholas says, I have none in place yet. That's okay. That's all right. That's why we're doing this. Christy says, I have many surrounding packing, food orders, cleanliness, temperature control. Yes. Dodd says, I will have a separate safety manual covering proper protocol and tools to use on the job. Very good. Very good. Very important. Very important. And so there will also be an employee-employer manual for policies and conduct. Absolutely. But remember, and this is key, it's only 50% of the work to have those manuals. It's all, Thomas said, it's all about acting and implementing them, right? Very important. Thomas says, I'm still my only employee with no sight of employing anyone soon, so I have none right now. That's fine. That's fine. Christy does add something incredibly important for everybody here. All right, here we go. There are millions of templates on the internet. You don't have to start from scratch. Yes, 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 absolutely. Google policies and health policies and procedures. Absolutely. They are there. They're there, right? That also works, by the way, for contracts and things like that. You have templates all over the internet for those. You can take a look at that. I mean, really, you don't have to, the wheel has already been created, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Okay. Becky says, engaging customers in conversations about your personal history needs to be limited. Yes, very, very important. Okay. You are conducting business with your customers, right? Okay, very, very key. Your personal history, your personal business, that needs to be very limited as well. Okay, you're not going to show off all your dirty laundry, so to speak, to your customers. All right, you can be friendly, but they're not your friends. That's what they used to tell teachers in my school. Be friendly, but they're not your friends. Or they could be your friends. I don't know. But you get the idea for customers, right? So that's important. Thank you very much, everybody. Very, very key. Okay. Very, very key. All right. We have 3 minutes left. I do want to plug our next series. What? There's more of Prevost? Yes. You guessed it. Next week, everybody, a 2-hour, that's right, you guessed it, business planning workshop with yours truly. Yes. All right. And the week after that, computer essentials for entrepreneurs. Computer essentials for entrepreneurs. So put that on the calendar, join us, and I'll be looking forward to seeing everybody, I hope, if you have the time. For the business planning, we're going to spend a significant amount of time looking at business plans, the ones that are successful, what works, what doesn't, some issues that you don't want to put your foot in it, that sort of thing, and whatnot. It is done without life plan. Last time I offered this, it was done with life plan. This one is without life plan. And so this is just looking at business planning, all the different steps, and a lot of examples, okay? Case studies, so to speak. Computer essentials will cover, well, it's computer essentials, right? Email, word processing, spreadsheets, slideshow presentation, all of this. And we're looking at free tools is what it is, free tools. So that's key, all right? And of course, I always end with the same way that I started. Give us a call. Give us a call, 541-278-5833, or sbdc@bluecc.edu. For any step of the business development process from ideation onward, talk with one of our advisors. You forgot what Form 941 was? Oh, my goodness, that's okay. Talk with one of our advisors. They'll help you figure it out, and it's going to be great. All right? It's going to be great. 541-278-5833, 541-278-5833. And we are essentially done. I'll be here to answer any questions that you have. Christy's here as well. But I hope to see you next week. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. Yes. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Becky, Dawn, Nicholas, Thomas, Christy. Thank you very much, everybody. All right. Thank you. See you next week, Dawn. Hey, all right. Well done. Okay. Awesome. Becky and Dawn, thank you. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm here. All right. Thank you, Becky.